So, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Reds Disciples podcast. Once again, if you're here with us, thank you for coming back and coming aboard with us. Again, the Reds Disciples, we are a companion podcast connected with the Reds Disciples Facebook group, which is an interactive basketball community dedicated to your 17-time, hopefully soon to be 18-time world champion Boston Celtics. Once again, I am your host on this journey, Aaron. I have with me once again, back on his triumphant return, Billy. Billy, great to see you, my man.
Nice to see you. Happy to be back.
Excellent, excellent. Good to see you. So we are on the eve of basketball again. We got a game on Monday, I think.
Monday night.
Yeah. It is. We have made it through the dog days of summer and August, even though there was still, some drama and a few moves going on, but we made it through and everybody's back. And right now, everything's great. Everybody thinks they got a chance. But I really like what I've been hearing about our team. How about you?
I mean, everything's positive right now. It's a really cool, really laid back. Everybody's excited, talking about playing faster, talking about ball movement, all those buzzwords that you want to hear at this time of year. We're hearing like the chemistry's up, everything, But the one thing that's really kind of stood out to me was the Horford talk. Like Horford.
Yeah. I'm really glad you mentioned that. I what do you think about that?
I mean, I guess we're going to have to say all double big lineups aren't created equal, because a double big lineup with Rob and Al isn't necessarily the same as what a Thompson and Rob would have been. It's so much more versatile. It kind of reminds me of what the 2014 Spurs used to do with Duncan Thiago splitter.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we're going to see a lot of that pop playbook of like that, that beautiful basketball style that Spurs team specifically ran.
Absolutely, that tic-tac-toe, kind of basketball. Hopefully, we didn't have, because I guess we didn't have really any post-entry bigs last year, because Thompson really couldn't do that. And, maybe, I don't know, I feel like Tatum could have done it, but he didn't do a lot of that. Same with Jalen. It was a lot more wing pick and roll. But I definitely feel like it seems like we've got a lot of ways that we can get the ball to touch the paint. And we might do that not just through dribble drive, but also through post entry. And hopefully, play off Al in the post, but hopefully also play off some of the other guys as well, and just have a very interchangeable group that can, if they spot a mismatch, can hopefully dump it down in there and then play off of it.
Yeah, I don't want to see Rob on the elbows trying to initiate offense anymore. I'm so over that. I know we didn't really have a choice, and Rob is a great passer, but I like having him just slashing to the basket.
Right, or in the dunker spot.
Yeah, I don't need him facilitating the offense. I know we try to kind of make him into that role, but I love the idea of Horford at his age trying to emulate what Tim Duncan did at 35, 36 years old. I kind of think they can pull that off, so I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the comments that they Ime mentioned in this I didn't catch today's interview, but yesterday's, talking about pace, and having pace not necessarily just mean being on the fast break pace, but also just guys moving quickly in the half court. And if you catch the ball, like within a second, read and react. What are you doing with the ball? Do you have a play? No. If you don't, if you do, great, make the play. If you don't, give it up and move, So that is something that is music to my ears, and always should be music to the ears of every Celtics fan, especially after last year.
The other thing that really stood out to me is kind of the Jalen role. I love that they're kind of modeling Jalen to have this year where he's not the number two. Tatum's the 1A and he's the 1B. They're going to stagger their minutes, and Jalen is going to really get the opportunity to make that leap that, Tatum kind of did the last couple years. And that's a game changer. If Jalen is a legit 1B, not a number two, the ceiling gets a lot higher on this team.
It certainly does. It certainly does. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, over last year and really the last couple of years about exactly what is Jalen's ceiling, and what is projection. And it's funny. I'm as big a Jalen fan as there is, as a lot of people are, and for a lot of great reasons on and of course off the court. But sometimes even I have to be reminded, like, I still don't know where his ceiling is yet. You don't know. I know when I was watching that pickup video with him and Simmons, if you've seen that, I remember when he first got drafted, he did this, Isaiah Thomas did this interview with him where he was talking about working on it. Isaiah was telling him he needs to get his handle sharper. And he used this phrase, "I want that ball to sing," talking about the ball, being able to work. And I tell you, when I watched that video the other day of him playing threes with Simmons, the ball was singing. The ball was piping. And I was like, wow, he has really come up if he can do that. And his moves, his first step is so quick now. It's so quick and decisive. And if Ime can harness that, then yeah, you're right. I mean, that raises the level of this team considerably.
And then with another leap to make, it's got to make every Celtic fan feel good. We got him on that contract after seeing what Michael Porter Jr. just got past week.
Absolutely. In my opinion, he's already, if he stays just at the level he's at last year, he's already outplayed his contract.
No question.
No question. So, what are some of the roster battles or position battles as far as, who makes regular rotation, end of rotation? What are let me back up. Give me 3 roster battles or roster questions or issues you think are important for Ime to kind of suss out.
I don't think it's an issue per se, but I do think that Grant, Herman Gomez, and Parker are all fighting for their lives right now because only one of those guys is going to get minutes in a real game. And I think there is a role for about 10 to 15 minutes for one of those guys. I'm just not sure which one it is. The buzz seems to be leaning towards Grant. Grant seems to have had a great training camp, losing 15 pounds. But Jabari, man, I don't know if you saw that workout video of Jabari. He's like dunking on people again, and it kind of gets you a little hype.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, I think in the end, it may come down to maybe who's the best defensively out of the group, who tends to move their feet and is the most versatile. But that is a big question. And yeah, that would be huge if someone with Jabari's offensive repertoire could snag that spot. And it's funny, we went from having such a young team, and parts of it are still young per se, but what Brad's been able to do with adding the experience he's had. It's funny, we're now having this discussion now where we're like, does XYZ young player even does he even get on the court now? We're having those discussions instead now, where so many veterans and, reliable guys are now, kind of entrenched, the first 7 spots, potentially even 8 are spoken for to a degree.
But it is a long season and there's going to be injuries. There's going to be opportunities.
Agreed.
I do think that it's going to be more important that we do have 13 or 14 guys that theoretically could play. But like a guy like Canner, I don't see him getting a lot of minutes early on while everybody's still healthy. I don't see a guy like Bruno getting a lot of minutes.
Nah, I don't see the same with Bruno.
The interesting one to me is going to be Romeo versus Neesmith, because I think there's really only one spot for one of those guys, unless like maybe Richardson got hurt.
What do you think about the 2 guys that Brad picked up at the tail end? Archie Diacono and Matthews. If you saw Keith Smith's tweet, he said he spoke with multiple sources that seem to suggest that both guys have a chance to make this roster. Now, if that is the case, obviously there are more moves to be made. But obviously we'll see what happens in the first games and who gets run. But what is your assessment of those two players there?
I like Matthews more for the two-way spot, though. I don't think you have to give him an actual roster spot, but Ryan could get a legit roster spot. I think you always want to be stocked up on ball handlers in case, like I said, Smart usually does get hurt. And then I know we have Schroeder, but it's kind of an unproven thing with him. And then, of course, Pritchard's awesome, but you still want to have another guy. We don't want to get in a situation like we did last year where we had that game where we didn't have a point guard, where Pritchard was out, where Smart was out. We started Tatum and Brown in the backcourt. It was insane.
No, that's a good point you make. It's often it's easy to think sometimes, oh, you got enough, you got more than enough. And then all of a sudden something happens. Heck, we're still in the age of COVID. Things could change as far as that goes. What about speaking of that, and we're not going to touch too far into that, except as it relates to availability. There's obviously been some talk about some guys who may not have taken the vaccine. And I know in Massachusetts, we don't have a mandate for that as far as I understand, like they do in New York and San Francisco about that as it relates to, but the Boston Garden does have a specific rule, if I'm correct, about it, or is that maybe just related to spectators and not players?
That's spectators for now, but you do know that we always kind of follow suit with whatever New York does. So I'm kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop. Now, the good news is we're up to 95% of the league being vaccinated now. So instead of less than 40 players, now we're at less than about 30. There's only really 2 Celtics that are even considered in this danger zone. One is Josh Richardson, who openly said
the one I did know.
And then everybody assumes Schroeder's still not vaccinated, but we don't actually know. So those would be the only 2 that would be, kind of in an issue with this. But the other thing is, like I said, we're kind of past the point of no return where it's an argument of whether it's a choice, whatever it's not. We're at the point now where you're going to miss games if you're not vaccinated. So it seems like kind of the peer pressure has worked into the NBA to get everybody vaccinated, because that number keeps going up of all the vaccinated players. Like for it to jump 5% in 3 days, that's pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also the union and the league agreeing to that, all right, if you're gonna miss games because of the protocols, you're also gonna miss game checks as well. Messing with people's pockets is always a good motivator, of course. So yeah, we'll see, I guess, how that goes with this team. I'm certainly, just for the sake of making sure everybody's as available as often as possible, and seeing, what this team really has at, at all, at all gears firing at all times. I would like for them to get it, just for the fact of, let's see what this team really can do, after the season. Because I think everybody who's in that locker room and playing in the, in the scrimmages and all that, has to see, hopefully, what the rest of us out here see. And we're not even seeing all the scrimmages, but like, there's a lot of buzz around this team. A lot of really good buzz. I still think it hasn't quite picked up nationally, unless your name is Bobby Marks or Zach Lowe. But, other than that, I think most people are still sleeping on our potential, but from nationally. But there's a lot of like quiet, low-key buzz here.
Yeah, like that stuff Damon Stoudemire was saying today, like they don't realize how good we are. It's pretty, it's pretty nice to hear. It's like there's 10, 11 guys that would play on pretty much any playoff team on this roster right now.
That's huge. When can we have said that before? Maybe 2018, maybe.
Yeah, we had that roster 2018, but they all hated each other. So
right, none of them liked each other. None of them liked each other. How great was it to hear from Al, and how much, like, I can only imagine Brad Stevens, what he must have heard at the end of that phone call when he calls Al to let him know, yeah, we traded back for you. And in the report, he's like, everybody's screaming and all of that. His family's excited. Of course, Ann is excited. But how cool is that?
It's so nice. And then I guess he requested a trade back to the Celtics a while ago, which
I heard they were working on that, at mid-season last year, or Adler, or either around or after the deadline. They were already trying to see when or if they could make that work. So yeah, it's really great that's worked out, and that he is healthy. He was able to just kind of rest and watch film and, get himself ready for this season. And, he looks like a young 35 right now. Which certainly speaks well for this team, as Al is a point guard amplifier. He's a ball handler amplifier deluxe. And I'm excited to see what he can do for Marcus in a full-time role, in this two-man game. Him and Marcus had a great two-man game before, but Marcus is now a more veteran savvy player. He's entered his prime, where he's in his, peak of powers and peak of understanding. And so being able to play with a veteran like Al, who amplifies good point guard play in general, that's got me a bit excited about, what they can do on the court.
Yeah, I'm so it's unbelievable to like how having Al back has just like completely changed my attitude about this team. It's a totally nerdy reference that maybe 10 people will get, but there's an X-Men called Sync, and his whole deal is he amplifies the powers of whoever's around him. So if he's around Iceman, Iceman's 10 times as powerful.
Who is this?
Sync.
Sing?
Yeah, Sync. SYNC.
Oh, right. Okay.
Generation X. He's a member of the main roster now.
Yep.
Like I said, doesn't matter. Pretty obscure X-Men, but his whole thing is whoever he's with, he amplifies their powers. Horford does that to an offense.
Yeah,
He's played for a top 5 offense in Atlanta, in Boston, pretty much everywhere he goes besides Philly because that was a mess, and then the Thunder because they were tanking. He gives you a top 5 offense. He amplifies your offense. That facilitating at that position, it's irreplaceable, as we found out.
absolutely. So what do you think are the what do you think of how our defense might operate? Do you think that with that, I know Ime talked about wanting to be disruptive in whatever fashion that means. Do you think do you think he might press a little with some of these guys?
Maybe in situations, but you don't do that in the NBA for a majority of the game. Like Patino learned that the hard way. I can't even hear the word press without, breaking out in hives what Rick Pitino did. So I don't think so. I think you could do traps. I think you could do some half court trap kind of stuff, but an actual press in the NBA, these guys aren't going for that.
Interesting. So yeah, I was wondering about that, if that is something that would work. But you're right, it's not something that you do for long periods of time. But yeah, I think either way, I think our offense is going to be a bit disruptive, hopefully, and do some pretty good things.
I mean, if you want to send Smart out to harass the ball handler, I'm totally cool with that. He can do that. But if you're having everybody press and then your only guy backs,
Oh yeah, yeah. And when I say that, I mean more like a one-man pressure the ball handler, periodically. But yeah, as far as no, not a full team, not Kentucky full team Kentucky press. No, that
yeah,
we can't do. Um, but yeah,
I think
just
that sometimes too, and it's really annoying. Like he'll do it for a quarter, and it'll actually work for a little bit. But yeah, I don't see us going that route. I don't want to do anything Nick Nurse does.
So as far as the rest of the league goes, of course, there's a lot of other interesting stories headed into this year. Obviously, we still have Simmons outstanding. It's funny, I go back and forth, kind of almost laughing at Simmons, and at the same time also feeling like the teensiest bit, you know, like like he's in a tough situation, like it's a tough situation because he knows he wants out, but then all of a sudden I snap out of it and remember, like, this is someone whose game just he hasn't his game on the court hasn't evolved in the postseason at all. And I wonder where the end is, and where is the end? What does the end of the story even look like? End of this chapter of the story, what does it even look like now?
Well, you said hasn't involved in the postseason. Where is it involved at all? He came into the league an elite defender. Where's the improvement been at all from year 1 to year 5? He's the same player. I mean, that's more the issue. I really liked Embiid's comments today. I was not expecting him to be that raw, but he's right. Since the day Simmons got there, they catered to Simmons. They built the team around Simmons. Wrongfully so, in my opinion, when you have Embiid, but they got rid of Jimmy to keep Simmons happy. They brought in Al to
Yeah,
get a facilitator around Simmons to help complement Simmons. They didn't bring in Al to help Embiid. They brought him in to help Simmons, help move the ball. But it's tough. Like, they really dropped the ball in that. I don't know what his value is.
the worst thing, like, they ruined him right from the jump when Brett Brown said, yeah, we're going to make him a point guard and start. Like, in my opinion, he should have been, playing in the front court, and they should have kept a legit real guard and have him run, like, and have him run as the screener, and do some short roll stuff and some different things like that. but the instant they said they gave him the ball, I remember him in college. When everyone in college, people would marvel at his passing. And I'm like, this guy's passing up shots to give to Antonio Blakeney with like 3 seconds left in games. Like, what are we doing here?
They didn't even make like it did not translate to winning basketball. It was pretty it's pretty ugly.
And so Rich Paul says now that they should trade him to a team that can be built around him. Who does that leave? What team is that? Is that one of the two teams in Texas? Maybe.
I don't see it. Maybe Houston, maybe.
I mean, but with that, like, who do you trade there? You're going to trade John Wall for him? Like that. If Morey leaves Houston and goes to Philly and then trades him for John Wall, like that doesn't seem like logical.
I don't know if you do like a John Wall or Eric Gordon, both of them with some draft capital or something. I don't know if there's something there that you kind of work out where you help your team now and you help it later, because they always are going to need more shooting and they do need a guard. But man, putting your eggs in the John Wall basket, that's a rough one.
It is a rough one. I mean, he obviously saying he wants to go West Coast, like maybe. And I know obviously it was the one team out of the four California teams he didn't mention, but I mean, maybe if you're Philly, you pray for something like, a Heald and
I don't know if Daryl takes that. He thinks he can get an all-star for him. I don't think Heald's enough. I think Heald is a great fit for what they're doing in Philly, but Daryl's a little more stubborn than most. I mean, I don't think he's going to take 10 cents on the dollar.
Do you think he ends up getting it? Yeah. Do you think he ends up getting an all-star for him? If you, in your heart of hearts,
all-star, like what do we consider CJ McCollum? He could have made an all-star team. Like nobody would have objected if he made one. It's going to be a that caliber. So maybe a guy who's made one all-star team or maybe should have, but missed it once or twice. Somebody like that.
Yeah. I thought honestly when O'Shea had dangled McCollum, I thought they should have jumped on it, honestly.
100%.
I thought they should have jumped on that deal.
You're Philly, like DJ and Covington for Simmons, something along those lines where that's the basis of a deal. Kind of makes sense. I still think Philly needs a point guard, but I don't know where they're going to find one. You're not getting, De'Aaron Fox for Simmons.
No, I don't see that doesn't make sense for Sacramento to give him up.
As much as I like Halliburton, unless you really think Fox is leaving, but
yeah, and he just signed a big mega deal, did he not?
He did.
Yeah, so I don't know. That doesn't. We'll see where that goes. Looks like Beal looks like he's locked in on staying now. It seems like after watching Milwaukee win, like he's okay with what they have
for now. I think that's gonna. Yeah, I think February is going to be was always going to be the question mark of how much Beal really feels about staying or not. Because if he doesn't sign an extension, they're going to have to trade him because he's going to walk for nothing over the summer.
Yeah, and there are not a lot of teams with space, but some team's going to go after him for sure when that happens. So, all right. So we're just to kind of wrap up here. Who are we playing on Monday? I'm trying to think.
It was Orlando, no?
Is it Orlando?
Oh. I know we got like an Orlando, Toronto.
You're right. It is.
Yeah.
It is Orlando. So just to kind of wrap up with this here today, Anything you're looking to see that you'll keep your eye on, or that you think Celtics fans should have their eyes on for this first game?
Can Rob and Al play together? Because there was actually a lineup with Tice and Rob that was really successful, but we just couldn't use it enough because Thompson obviously needed his minutes. So if we have a better version of that Tice Rob lineup with Al and Rob, I think we just found our starting lineup.
Maybe so. All right. And best, like, low key, low key surprise X factory thing to look for.
I want it to be Neesmith, like him just coming out firing
Me
and
too.
ready. But I think it's going to be more, oh, Josh Richardson can play basketball. We forgot this. He's really good. That's probably the more realistic take. But oh man, I hope it's just Neesmith's ready to go.
Either way, keep an eye on that backcourt rotation and those guys. All right. Well, again, you have been here with us with Red's Disciples. If you've been watching this long, thank you for hanging in. Definitely, please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Click that follow button if you're on iTunes or Spotify. And obviously, please join the conversation with us in the Facebook group if you have that account. But stay tuned with us during the season. On Monday, we'll be watching the game, and my plan is to have a short recap after that game to kind of check in on the highlights. We'll see what we find out about those two things Billy mentioned on that day. But Billy, any final words before we take off?
No, Monday can't get here quick enough, man.
Amen. Amen, brother. All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you soon.